All right, welcome back to ABA Exam Review, where today we're going through our RBT exam practice session, where we're going through the next set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. If you're looking for RBT study materials, please check out btexamreview.com. We offer 3 practice exams, a task list study guide, and of course, our famous combo pack. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in our Sunday shout out. Other than that, let's work hard, study hard, get to our questions. Question 1. What is a primary disadvantage of using continuous measurement for tracking behavior? Think about the 3 main types of measurement you need to know as an RBT. We have to know continuous, discontinuous, and permanent product. What separates continuous measurement from the other 2 is that with continuous measurement, you are continually observing the behavior for as long as you're with the learner. So if you're with the learner for 3 hours, continuous measurement takes place over the course of 3 hours. Now, what would be a disadvantage of using this type of measurement? A, it is the least accurate type of measurement. That is incorrect, right? Continuous measurement tends to be more accurate than discontinuous or permanent product because you're constantly observing the behavior occur. B, it can only be done during a specific time of the day. Again, not true, right? You can use continuous measurement whenever, but you need to use it throughout. Whenever you're with the learner, you have to continuously measure whatever you're looking for. C, it takes considerable time and resources. Yes, it takes a lot of time and a lot of commitment to continuously measure the same behavior for long periods of time. It's why in group settings, continuous measurement can be quite difficult. So, a disadvantage is definitely the amount of time and resources it takes. And then D, it is not good for individual learners. No, continuous measurement is actually great for individual learners. When you're working one on one, continuous measurement is actually typically a pretty good choice. So, a disadvantage of using continuous measurement is that it takes a considerable amount of time and resources. 2. Although a learner's motivation can be high, this does not necessarily mean a reinforcer is available. What needs to be present to tell the learner that a reinforcer is available? Okay, kind of a tricky question. Let's break it down. We're looking at what needs to be present to tell the learner that a reinforcer is available. In other words, what signals that the reinforcer is available? Because the learner's motivation can be high, it doesn't mean the reinforcer is available. My motivation for margaritas can be very high, but unless there's a signal that margarita is available, I can't get one. So, what signals that the reinforcer is actually available? A, the MO. The motivating operation doesn't signal, right? The motivating operation alters the value and increases or decreases motivation. The SD is what signals that reinforcement is available. There has to be an SD present to tell the learner that a reinforcer is available. Although a prompt is an antecedent, it is not the actual signal for that reinforcement is available. Okay. Prompts can temporarily act as SDs depending on when you use the prompt, but what needs to be present is an actual SD. A student often taps his pencil on his desk while thinking during test in class. You are told to use event recording to measure the behavior. What are you going to record? What is the key to this question? All right, because we're asking, what are we trying to record? Okay. And in order to answer that question, we have to identify the type of measurement we're using. In this case, the student is tapping his pencil and you're using event recording. Now, what is event recording? Event recording is essentially frequency data. Essentially, all you're doing is counting how many times something happens. So if you're going to use event recording to record tapping pencil on desk, what are you going to record? A, the length of time in between taps. What type of measurement would that be if we're going length of time in between responses? Well, that's going to be inter response time. B, each time the pencil is tapped. Good. We're going to count and record every time that pencil is tapped. We're going to take a recording. We're going to take recording of the event of the pencil being tapped. C, the antecedents and consequences of tapping. We're not ABC recording here. We're just simply event recording, focusing on the tapping. And then D, only if the tapping occurs during the entire interval. It doesn't say anything about discontinuous or interval recording here. Okay. Focus on what the question gives you. Focus on that information. We're using event recording. We're tapping the pencil on the desk. We're going to record each time the pencil is tapped. This is how you need to walk through every single question. Notice we do all of our work in the question, right? Using the information, and then we evaluate the answer choices. We make sure we understand what the question is asking first, and then we evaluate. A mom is spoon feeding her baby peas and carrots. Each time the mom puts the spoon near the baby's mouth, the baby tries to grab the spoon. The mom always moves the spoon away and pushes the baby's hands down. What does this most resemble? All right, kind of a vague question. It's a behavior question first and foremost. And whose behavior are we looking at? You always have to answer that question. Whose behavior am I looking at? Well, we're really looking at the mom's behavior, right? Because we're talking all about the mom. The mom is spoon feeding carrots. Each time she puts the spoon in the baby's mouth, the baby tries to grab the spoon. So the mom moves the spoon away and pushes the baby hands down. So what does this most resemble? What is the mom doing? A, response blocking. Response blocking is preventing a response from being able to occur. Can the baby grab the spoon if the mom is constantly pushing the baby's hands down? No, the mom is blocking the response from occurring. Extinction and response blocking are different things. And this is an important thing to note. Extinction, you have to give the learner an opportunity to engage in the response for it to truly be extinction. This is simply preventing the response from ever occurring. So response blocking and extinction are not the same. It is not an antecedent intervention because it is a consequence of what? Well, spoon near the baby's mouth. Baby tries to grab spoon. The consequence is the mom moves the spoon away and pushes the baby's hands down. So it's a consequence intervention. And then D, physical prompting. The mom is not prompting the baby. Don't be fooled by pushing the baby's hands down. That is not a prompt. It's a consequence. So what is the mom doing? She is blocking the baby's ability to engage in the response. So she is response blocking. Your supervisor instructs you to begin fading out reinforcement for a mastered skill. Which of the following items is not something you need to consider? What do you need to consider when fading out reinforcement? That is what the question is asking. So think about, what is fading reinforcement? Well, you're increasing the response requirement, or you're increasing the schedule of reinforcement. You're giving less reinforcement, right? Less reinforcement as a whole is being delivered. That's essentially what fading reinforcement is. And it's a gradual part of learning that we need to do. So when you're doing that, what is not something you need to consider? Meaning something here is not relevant to fading out reinforcement. A, the potential effects fading will have on the client's response rate. Is that something you need to consider? Well, absolutely. If you're going to give less reinforcement, we need to think about what effect is that going to have on the response rate. They might stop responding or slow their responding if they're receiving less reinforcement. We have to consider that. B, ratio strain occurring as a side effect of fading. Remember, ratio strain is essentially what A is saying. Ratio strain says you faded too quickly, there's too little reinforcement, and now responding has slowed or stopped. C, more reinforcement will be delivered for an already mastered skill. If you're fading out reinforcement, is more reinforcement going to be delivered? Of course not, right? So C is just factually wrong. D, how quickly you're going to fade the reinforcement. Yeah, you have to consider that too. How quickly will the fading occur? So this is kind of a tricky question, okay? You have to really analyze what it's asking you. And when you're fading out reinforcement, you know you're not delivering more reinforcement. So C is not something you need to consider because you're fading it out. You don't need to consider the fact that more reinforcement will be delivered. You know it won't because that's exactly what fading out is. This is a tricky question, okay? Make sure if you got it wrong, make sure you review and understand exactly why you got it wrong and why C is correct. It is the holiday season, and Dan knows that his in-laws are going to be arriving in town while he is at work. Dan decides to take the long way home when he leaves work. It takes him an extra 45 minutes to get home. Based on this information, what is the simplest hypothesis in regard to the function of Dan's behavior? So, simple hypothesis question. Okay. Keep it simple. We're just using the information given. And if all the information we had was this, what would you hypothesize is Dan's behavior? Well, let's look at what Dan knows. Dan knows his in-laws are going to be arriving in town, so he takes the long way on home when he leaves work. It takes him an extra 45 minutes to get home. What do we think Dan is trying to accomplish? Is he trying to gain a tangible? Well, no, there's no apparent tangible that Dan is trying to get by taking an extra 45 minutes to get home. Is he trying to avoid something? Yes, it seems like he's trying to avoid his in-laws. Is he trying to get attention? Well, no, if he wanted attention, he probably would not be driving away or staying away from his house and his in-laws. And then D, automatic sensory. Since we know his in-laws are in town, we should hypothesize that Dan is most likely trying to avoid the in-laws. Now, this is a perfect world scenario, okay? There's a lot of different things that could be going on. It's just to get you thinking about why does behavior occur, right? And how can we use the antecedents and setting events around us to identify the function? So we're just looking for the most simple explanation here. And the most simple explanation is Dan knows his in-laws are in town, so he takes a long time to get home from work. He's just trying to avoid them. That's the simplest explanation. And we always want to go with the most simple explanation possible. If you are going to graph data as an RBT, what are the two things you need in order to label the x-axis and the y-axis? All right, pretty easy graphing question, okay? You have to consider what goes on the x-axis and what goes on the y-axis. Well, let's start with the x-axis. What goes on the x-axis in a graph? Well, typically we're going to put the passage of time, right? Days, hours, sessions, passage of time on the x-axis. The y-axis is going to hold our behavior. That way we have behavior on the y-axis, and then we can track it over a period of time on the x-axis. So if we're going to graph data as an RBT, there are two things we need. A, the behavior and the baseline. Is the baseline going on either the x-axis or the y-axis specifically? Well, no, the baseline is a type of data, right? Behavior is going on the y-axis. We know this. The behavior and title for the graph. The title is not helping us label the x-axis or the y-axis, so that is out. C, the behavior and the client's name. Again, we're not putting the client's name on either of these axes. What we're putting there on the y-axis is the behavior, and on the x-axis is time. So what are the two things you need in order to label the x-axis and the y-axis is the behavior and time. You, a behavior technician, apply for a job at a new company. The owner of the company introduces you to your supervisor, who you dated a year and a half ago. You end up getting the job. Is there anything wrong in this scenario? Okay, think about this scenario. You're a behavior technician. You apply for a job at a new company. It's fine. The owner of the company introduces you to your supervisor, who you dated a year and a half ago. Now you get the job. So they're going to be supervising you, but you dated a year and a half ago. Is that an issue? Well, the key here is the length of time. What does the ethical code say in regards to supervisors that you used to date? A, yes, there's something wrong. Your superior cannot be someone you used to date. That is incorrect. Okay, you can have a boss and a supervisor who you used to date. B, yes, there is something wrong. You must wait 2 years before someone you dated can be your supervisor. Not your supervisor. You must wait 2 years before dating clients or stakeholders. C, no, you only need to wait 6 months before someone you dated can be your supervisor. Yes, you have to wait 6 months, and since you dated a year and a half ago, this should be totally fine. D, no, personal relationships are irrelevant to supervision. Nope, not true. Okay, they are relevant. They are relevant. There is a time frame. You must wait 6 months before someone you dated can be your supervisor. And then Gregory wants to work to decrease how often his ex-girlfriend texts him during the weekend. What strategy would not be effective at decreasing texting behavior? Pretty easy question here, right? What are we focused on? We want to decrease, right? We're decreasing behavior. The question is asking what strategy would not be effective. So we're looking for the one that would not be effective at decreasing texting. A, extinction. Does extinction work to decrease behavior? Absolutely it does. You can put this on extinction and decrease it. B, negative punishment. Well, punishment decreases. Absolutely a relevant strategy. C, negative reinforcement. Does reinforcement decrease or increase? It increases. No matter what negative or positive, right? Reinforcement increases. You would never use reinforcement to decrease a behavior. And then positive punishment, of course, punishment decreases. So extinction and punishment would decrease. We would never use negative reinforcement to decrease a behavior. We would only use that to increase. All right. Thank you for watching. Thank you for following ABA Exam Review. Please subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all study materials. When you pass, let us know. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.